Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring DoW2 the Elite Mod. Red-Rupee here tonight calling the shots for you as always, and we've got another one-on-one here on Calderis Refinery. We have returning again Mr. PhatE as the big bad orc warboss, and his opponent on the red side, Mr. Max, playing the big bad Chaos Lord, equally big and bad as the warboss if you ask me. Most recently we had FaTe playing against the brother captain of Cyrus on last week's episode. Hopefully he'll fare a little better against the Chaos Lord. So we have standard openings coming in from both sides. We've got double shooters from PhatE. We got the first Chaos Space Marines out here for the Chaos Lord. He's grabbing his natural victory point and power. And everyone's gonna be moving into the center here shortly. As far as the matchup between the Warboss and the Chaos Lord, I'm not really sure who has the advantage there. They're both pretty meaty. I think as far as head-to-head, the Warboss is nastier to deal with than the Chaos Lord himself, but that depends on what kind of upgrades and supporting gear that Chaos Lord decides to kit himself out with. I think the Warboss has the potential for more brute strength, of course. But the Chaos Lord, I think, can be quite a threat as well. Especially if he gets that combat flamer, he can really chase around and pull models off of those shooters fairly easily. And that sort of thing. Warboss, of course, in Tier 1, might see maybe that Bang Bang Hammer to deal some big damage to these Chaos Space Marines. Especially since he's going for double Chaos Space Marines instead of pulling out the second ticks early on. We got Slugger Boys moving in on these heretics over here. Doom Blast goes off, but doesn't quite hit too well. The Sluggers will beat these heretics if you don't get a strong Doom Blast like we saw right there. It was kind of one of the heretics in the back exploded, and I don't think they got the full damage from that explosion. So we saw kind of both players just going super deep with their heroes at the moment. Both of those shooter boys were forced off by the Chaos Lord, and now he's going back to capping the Warboss, going way back here, trying to take out one of those Space Marine models, but couldn't quite cut it. These injured Sluggers won't be able to deal with those Chaos Space Marines as they are unupgraded. Maybe with the Flamers and full models they'd be good to go, but as it stands, they're already down a model, down some HP. They'd take too much damage on approach and lose the melee battle most likely. So, as it stands, the Chaos Lord's going to be the first one to grab that center VP for a little while here. Going to even out, continue pushing those victory points in his favor. We've got a Luda on the field, and I've been playing against PhatE a lot. He really likes getting that Luda on the field pretty quickly. I think he uses that more than most other orc players that I've seen recently. So we'll have to see if he can get some good ambushes with that cloaked Luda boy. Right now it looks like he's just trying to find a good position to move in here as he brings the shooters back onto the field. And we've got everything starting to clash here in the center. Little scuffle here as they battle over the center victory point. Worship goes down, slinging that Chaos Lord into the thick of it, along with his beefy Chaos Space Marines. Warboss and Sluggers are here to reinforce, however, as Chaos Raptors are purchased for Max. They're not going to be involved in this engagement, though. Kill the Weak goes down, knocks the Warboss around a little bit. But with these heretics coming in on the injured Sluggers, both melee squads approach each other and then couldn't quite commit, decide to back out of that one for fear of both sides losing their squad. Luda's moving a bit too close. They could have gotten in a good spot, but looks like that was enough to scare off the Chaos Space Marines. I think that was a bit too little for him to approach that, even though the Ludas were kind of out of position there. A lone Space Marine model goes down, and Raptors are moving onto the field. Might have been a bit of an early jump, but with those Ludas moving in again, let's see if they get set up. Oh no, the Raptors are attacking the wrong models, and they're taking a faceful Luda fire. Will they get it? Oh, this is an unfortunate turn of events right there for Mr. Max. Lost 2 Chaos Raptor models trying to approach that Luda because he kept attacking the shooter boys instead of slugging on those Ludas. Almost cost him his shooter boy squad, though. Will it go down? Not quite, but the Ludas do get tied up this time. Just as the grenade launchers finish the upgrade, they might have even been able to try to blast off a quick ground fire volley to finish off that shooter boy, but I don't think it would have been enough Bang Bang Hammer is on the field now. It's going to give him some big, powerful melee here to deal with these Chaos Space Marines. And of course, every time he swings with that hammer, it does rile up the boys. So if he's in the middle of an orc blob, he's going to get even more use out of that hammer. He's getting the angry bits as well, so he's going to have a charge and enable a little on the field HP regeneration. But for the time being, he's just going to get the heck out of there. As it stands, though, the map is very blue. You can see Max is only holding on to his natural power, his natural rec, and his natural VP. Everything else is in the hands of PhatE. He's even upgrading these Slugger boys with that flamethrower, that burners and bits. Gonna be able to get a nice little gen bash here on the back end, while Max is probably just trying to get some map back. He's gonna make sure that he pays for it if he doesn't react to this in time. Chaos Space Marines, one squad out here, already down to almost one model, sitting at only 200 HP. Gonna have to be very careful. Use your choppas gets activated, but that's not gonna be enough for the Sluggers to deal with all of this. Perhaps if it had just been the Raptors, that may have helped, but even so, that would have been a difficult fight. Those Raptors are pretty beefy, and the Sluggers would have needed a couple chain knockdowns to really get the better of that melee fight. So Warboss moving back out on the field with his looters and shooters. Shooters getting their knob upgrade as well, so they're going to be putting out all the DPS here shortly. Looters do get a nice starting volley off suppress both squads of those Chaos Space Marine. Warboss jumping into the middle of everything and then charging back, knocking everyone over, but those Raptors are enough to scare off the Looters while the Shooter Boys try to get those Chaos Space Marines off of the field. On the far side, we have Shooters and Heretics facing off against each other. I'm not sure who actually wins that. I guess if they go into the melee, that's going to be the Shooters. That knob actually does some reasonable melee damage, even on the Shooter Boy squad. And as it stands, oh man, nice knockback going down with those Raptors, and that kill the weak, forcing off the Shooter Boys finally. Bang Bang Hammer trying to do what it can, but the Warboss is just consistently getting knocked back here. Nice stomp going down, taking out another Raptors. Those Raptors have been bleeding quite a bit for Max. It's something he's going to have to try to keep in check at this stage of the game, considering he's not been able to hold on to his requisition points much at all, and he's already down by about 100 victory points as well. The way PhatE's been playing is that his Looters and his Shooters have been hanging out with his Warboss, or one squad of Shooters anyways, and then a second squad he sends around on cap duty. Really allows him to kind of hold a center field without having to use his entire orc blob here. And again, knowing that Looter's out there, you would expect that he wouldn't be pushing in. Yeah, there he goes. He backs off. He realizes he almost wandered into a potential firing suppression field there. Meanwhile, Sluggers once again putting the pressure on that gen farm. Chaos Space Marines reinforced but didn't get their model, unfortunately. Grenade barrage going down here, knocking the Looters over, but not going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity to move in on the center. He's trying to react to that gen bash right now, so he probably didn't need to use that knockdown shot right there either, but Sluggers instantly retreating upon seeing an approaching enemy. They managed to get a generator and the node again, so their mission is complete. That's a 225 requisition down the drain, plus slowing down that tech advantage. Raptors moving in on the center of the field. They're pretty beat up, but all that's out here is these Looters, so they'll be able to make short work of them. Taking out a single model, and then taking the center of the map for themselves. Warboss now with his spiky armor as well, so he's going to be doing some AoE damage to everything around him as he takes damage himself. Knocking over that Chaos Lord, these two just beating the heck out of each other. One with that big hammer and one with that demon sword. Kill the weak, stomps going off, everyone's just knocking each other back. One of them's going to have to yield at some point here, and it looks like it's the Chaos Lord, and he almost paid for it with his life. One more swing of that hammer leaves him at a mere 25 HP. Not quite enough to finish him off, but that could have been a big loss for Max. PhatE's going into Tier 2 while Max is already there. However, he doesn't really have the resource to bring anything onto the field. Oh, and a nice summoning of the demons right there while the Warboss was trying to beat up some heretics for free. Cost PhatE 250 requisition in the ways of bringing that Warboss back up These shooters still keeping an eye on these ancillary points on the side of the map. We got the Raptor sparring Heretic on the field. Kind of surprised he went for that. He's got the tier. I guess he doesn't assume that he has quite the tech advantage that he does, considering that his enemy has held all of these various power nodes. He's got a gen farm and both of the center nodes capped. But he has spent a lot of power in tier 1. He spent all those upgrades on the Warboss, which then fell. He has fully upgraded Shooter Boys. I feel like instead of getting that aspiring champion on the Raptors, that Max could then have brought himself a Blood Crusher onto the field. But instead he's going for the assault cannon with the Mark of Khorne on these havocs, and gonna go with some havoc play instead of the quick Blood Crusher, which I think he could have brought onto the field without much issue. The good thing too about that vehicle is that it forces the Warboss to react. The Warboss has already bought that Bang Bang Hammer, so he doesn't have an easy upgrade choice if he wants to then go for the Power Claw instead. He does have the Ludas on the field, but those alone are not enough to challenge a Blood Crusher as it stands. Again, these Slugger Boys consistently causing trouble over here. Gonna get another node, another generator, and then retreat, only losing a couple models and costing some red for our boys to make sure those guys get out of there okay. PhatE's brought a Pain Boy onto the field, getting the Cyborg implants, upgrading him, so he's gonna have some heals, gonna be able to upgrade a squad or a unit here shortly. But as it stands, the Chaos Lord's taking the center of the map and gonna start evening back out that victory point disadvantage, which has been a gap slowly closing since we've entered tier 2. But we've got this big orky ranged blob here, and then we've got the melee forces in the back. The Warboss still down. PhatE does not have the resources to bring him up at the moment, so this is really a time where Max could be playing a bit more aggressively, so long as he knows that Warboss is down, and he should, since he was just over there. He should be trying, I feel like, to push forward here and maybe take out some of these generators. With only the Ludas and double Shooter Boys on the field, it should be a pretty easy army for this Chaos Force to rip apart. But instead it looks like Max is just kind of hanging back, now just going head first into all these Shooter Boys. Not quite how you'd expect to engage this, but it seems like it'll work out so long as he's got the grenade volley there. Forced off one squad, the other's still just retreating on foot. I believe that's the new ability. It's Savagery or something along those lines that the Chaos Space Marines have now. It increases their damage and I think allows them to fight more effectively in melee as well. We've got a Shrine of Khorne going up here, so we'll be able to have some passive bloodletters spawning here in the center to try to defend this point. But as it stands, PhatE's trying to get into position for another push. $289 to $380 at the moment. Suddenly, PhatE's the one with a 100-point victory deficit at this stage. Slugger Boy's still roaming around, looking for some other stuff. Got the upgraded Beamy Def Gun over here. I'm not sure if that was a premature purchase, if he was expecting a Dreadnought or a Blood Crusher or what, but man, it would be really beneficial to have that suppression at this point in the game. Or especially for this engagement, if nothing else. Luda Boys get forced off almost instantly to no real effect. Let the Galaxy Burn goes down, but I think it does more damage to the Raptors than it does any of those Shooter Boys, unfortunately. Chaos Marines getting charged up again. The Warboss comes charging forward, but they pull back just in the nick of time. Now that Warboss is going to get a face full of autocannon and Chaos Space Marine fire. Warboss taking a lot of fire himself from those upgraded Shooter Boys, but the grenade barrage is enough to scare them off. Warboss actually under a bit of trouble here once again, but those bloodletters do expire before they can continue the retreat chase. Khorne Havoc's in a lot of trouble with Sluggers on the flank here. Chaos Space Marines and Heretics will be able to probably deal with them relatively easily, especially with the help of those bloodletters. Another blood sacrifice going off. We're going to have 6 bloodletters in the center here now. still managed to force off the one squad of Chaos Space Marines, but secures the center still against the Orc Tide here. 231 to 380 now after that battle, and Max is kind of just sitting around in the center a bit too much, I feel like. Despite having won the past few engagements, the map is still very much in the favor of FatE. I feel like he's just playing a bit too reserved, as I mentioned earlier. He needs to kind of get out there and cause some trouble. Suppression going down, aiming what's that, locking down those Chaos Space Marines to allow the Warboss to approach relatively unharmed, and now these Khorne havocs are going to have to get out of there because there's no way they're going to set up with that Warboss hanging out. Chaos Space Marines again trying to put the hurt on that Warboss. Bloodletters trying to harangue these shooter boys as much as they can, but they're not going to be able to do too much. Let the Galaxy Burn does go down. Fireball's not really impacting too much there, though. Kind of 2 whiffs so far with that Let the Galaxy Burn ability. Khorne autocannon is unloading on those shooter boys, though. Gonna force them off pretty quickly, most likely. Grenade barrage, unfortunately, whiffs on the Slugger boys, allowing them to get in on both the Khorne havocs and those Chaos Space Marines, doing some heavy damage, leaving them down to a single model for both squads. Grenade launchers doing some hurt, but not quite going to be enough. Kill the weak at the nick of time, keeping that Chaos Lord up. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite paying attention to his heretics. Down they go. A squad loss for Max where he really didn't need it. The game is close. Really still anyone's match here. A lone shooter boy nab. How often does this happen that they just walk home by themselves without any other orcs? You gotta wonder if the Warboss starts getting mad at these knobs for coming home by themselves all the time. I just gave you a lot of boys. What'd you do with them? I don't know, boss. I don't know. Warboss gives him a kick and sends him back out there. He doesn't care. He's got unlimited boys to toss out there. He can call the boys whenever he wants. Those knobs, they don't care about the boys. They just want to fight. 162 to 380. We've got the Orc War Truck on the field now. That's going to allow those Orcs to really get in here easily. So far, it's been kind of hard to approach with this big, nasty autocannon, locking down in the center of the field. Warboss kind of running around the far side here, going for the flank, it looks like. Nope, I spoke too soon. He instead decides to just charge right on in there. Heretics were repurchased for Mr. Max. Very important for Chaos to have those Heretics for worship and support here. Nothing out here can really challenge this truck at the moment, though. It is sitting right under Khorne Havoc fire, however. User's Choppas gets activated once again on those Slugger boys, makes short work of those Chaos Raptors. And then they hop back on in that truck, which is running around relatively unscathed here. Looks like we had another blood sacrifice, I think. Once again on these bloodletters. Worship used to be able to keep those blood sacrifice letters around indefinitely. I don't think they can do that any longer. Made them a very powerful and constant threat on the board once they were activated. War Truck's still pretty beat up, doesn't want to approach that Havoc in its current state. If they fix that thing up, they can guarantee another strong push into enemy territory with those Slugger boys. Max has been bleeding quite a bit, though, and lost his gen farm time and time again, so he's really not been able to bring anything additional onto the field. Meanwhile, FaTe has been continuing to expand his army. All he's really lost is shooter boys and slugger boys here and there, and that adds up after a while, but when you compare that to the fact that the map control has been strongly in the favor of FatE, and that Mr. Max has 0 to no power on the field, all he's got is this +9 node at the moment. Raptors jump out of there. Chaos Space Marines putting some hurt on that Warboss, but they get flanked by that truck and the Slugger boys. And without the support of these Raptors, they're going to have to fall on back. Chaos Lord getting a bit too brazen chasing that Warboss out of there and gets a face full of Daka. Yet another blood sacrifice going off. Those bloodletters have been popping out of heretics left and right this game. But unfortunately, I think this was kind of a poor choice to use here. It didn't really do much. He used all that red, and all he really got out of it was a few Sluggaboy kills. Khorne Havocs, now supported by some regular Chaos Havocs, deciding that they needed a bit of suppression at this stage in the game, and I guess since he didn't have any other real power at this stage, that's what he needed to deal with. You can see he's just struggling for requisition to even keep these guys reinforced and on the field. FitzRupee's really starting to gain ground here as he heads into Tier 3. He's struggling for victory points, but if he continues to hold the army advantage like he is and brings out some Tier 3 units, that could be just about it for Max, unless Max can really start to push the map back here. Despite winning the victory point war, he's been slowly losing via attrition on the resource side of things. Luda's kind of sneaking around the back end here, gonna try to keep some pressure on that power farm in case he thinks Max does have enough requisition to continue building that gen farm after having lost it so many times. This is a really excellent example where victory points don't really mean much at this stage in the game unless Max has the ability to continuously push the orcs off the field. And while he was doing that earlier, he wasn't really capitalizing on that and converting those field victories into any sort of real map control. He was kind of just sitting on the center of the map, and while that's, as you can see, been very advantageous for the victory tickets, the armies are starting to falter here. Dual autocannons now out here, and wow, look at the damage they're outputting. That Warboss gets almost instantly pushed off, but the thing about this is if those Sluggaboys manage to get through this, which, oh my gosh, there's one flying all over the place. He must have got hit head on by some Havoc fire. They will be able to push this off relatively easily if they can just push through it. Really, all it would take was for PhatE to swing that truck around this back lane here and get a flank on those dual Havocs. Even with the Pain Boy out there, the Warboss might well be able to just charge in, get a heal, and then interrupt them themselves. Max just doesn't have a lot of holding power despite all of this heavy range fire. He's got nothing to really hold back the orcs if they were to just push past all of this. If they do get in on those Havocs, it's going to be an easy win for PhatE. But we'll just have to see where this match goes. 80 to 263 right now, and PhatE's been slowly gaining ground, I feel like, but as it stands, he keeps getting pushed off. And I was saying here that the victory points aren't that indicative of the game state. But if he doesn't do something about it soon, the game's just going to be over, and his field advantage just isn't going to matter. So he's bringing a Luda tank out on the field. I think that's going to be pretty effective here. There isn't any hard anti-vehicle counter at this stage. There are the two Khorne Havocs, obviously, but a tank can flank around those, and we can see the truck now flanking around as well. Warboss charging right into those Khorne Havocs, as we expected to see. Painboy and Sluggas now duking it out with those Raptors, and Use Your Choppas is going to make pretty short work of them. And of course we have those dual shooter boys completely upgraded, doing some big damage. Another blood sacrifice here, but again, I don't think this is going to be enough. You want to use that blood sacrifice when you have kind of a close engagement, and those bloodletters can swing the engagement into a victory for your side, or maybe get yourself a squad wipe. The best time to use that is when the enemy has committed to a battle and gone deep, where they are going to take losses if they lose the battle, and then you can suddenly swing the battle with an extra squad they weren't expecting to have to deal with, and that melee of those bloodletters is nothing to scoff at. 41 to 263, but I think that was the first decisive victory for PhatE here on the center of the field, especially now having that looted tank to lock down the center of the map. He did manage to take out one of the squads of Chaos Space Marines as well. And suddenly the forces of Max are just looking insufficient to deal with this orc threat. Chaos Havocs, both with that Mark of Khorne. They're great if you have the map, but now taking the map back from these orcs is going to be very difficult with these two suppression teams. I'm not sure if he's even seen the looted tank, but now he does, surely. Slugger Boys getting beat up, but of course they're just going to keep popping out of that truck. There are just so many Slugger Boys inside of that truck, those Raptors just don't even know. I'm not even sure where those cyborg implants went. I'm not sure if that's the correct amount of health for those sluggers or not, or whether they got the speed upgrade, because he definitely made that purchase. Painboy actually at level 2 at this point. I'm just not sure where he put the upgrade. Oh no, and it looks like Max is just throwing the game here. Just lost another squad of Chaos Space Marines. Heretics are moving in. Khorne Havocs do manage to take out that Orc truck. That's at least one small victory for Mr. Max. But as it stands, oh dear, it's not looking good at all. Heretics constantly exploding into demons. It looks like, ooh! FitzRupee a little overconfident in that Painboy. Kept him out there a bit too long. Should have just retreated as soon as he saw that blood sacrifice. And though I don't think the armies are even at this point, it's certainly a bit more close to that stage with the loss of that Painboy and that Orc truck. Of course, this looted tank's kind of just still rolling around in the center uncontested. There's no hard anti-vehicle at this stage in the game still. Two Khorne Havocs can put some pressure on it, but unless FitzRupee makes a serious micro mistake, he shouldn't be losing that looted tank. Well, I say that, but then it goes down to 50 HP and almost perishes right then and there. But so long as FitzRupee is smart with that tank, he shouldn't lose it to the autocannons. He's just going to have to make sure he fixes that thing up before it goes anywhere further. It's almost level 2, so it will be getting a little extra HP shortly here, so long as it can tag another Space Marine or two. Luda Boys now just being used to tie up Havoc squads. Those Havocs doing such major damage to these Shooter Boys. The one squad retreats. That probably wasn't even necessary. I'm sure it could have hung in there against Luda Boys. He probably could have kept that out there. What is he doing with these grenade launcher heretics? Oh no. Did he have those stuck on melee stance perhaps? I'm not sure what was going on there, but the past two engagements we saw those grenade heretics move in. And just as we thought Max may have been starting to gain ground, he throws it right back away again. And it's looking like FitzRupee is going to have this game secured relatively easily at this stage. But he was actually playing that pretty well. I think he, unfortunately, kind of botched that engagement. Maybe he's starting to go on tilt a little bit here as he's struggling to knock off these last few victory points. It's always frustrating when you feel so close to victory, and then you get it robbed. Oh no! Two squads of Khorne Havocs just make mincemeat, scrap metal of those tanks and Slugger Boys. Warboss is able to charge in, though. There's just not enough on the field anymore to scare him off. Kicks one of those Havoc squads right to the ground. And all that's left is Raptors, which are level 4, and two squads of Khorne Havocs, which are level 2 and 3 respectively. Certainly nothing to scoff at, but I just don't think that what's left is enough to deal with these orcs. I mean, I guess all things considered, all that's really out here is Shooter Boys and Slugger Boys at this stage. But they are all pretty well beefed up at this point. All three of them level 4 now. Warboss does go down once again. FitzRupee just getting a little overconfident. Keep throwing away his advantages. Blood sacrifice coming down time and time again here. These bloodletters trying to consistently harangue these orcs. We've got commandos on the field now as well. Use more DoW2 going down. Knocking over all the Khorne Havocs, and of course they can activate that Burner Bomb too as soon as those Havocs decide to set up and try to dislodge them, keep those setup teams from doing any real damage with those big scary autocannons. But here comes the fire. The first and second volleys now going down. Looks like the commandos are just going to try to get into melee with these guys. 18 to 91, the triple cap's been holding here for a minute or two, And another looted tank is coming onto the field. Unfortunately, those Raptors kind of jumped right into the middle of nothing. And I think Max is just losing his cool here. With the current composition, I would have guessed that Max could have well gotten back into this game after taking out that tank and Warboss again, but he's kind of botched the engagements here a couple times, and the map's just completely blue for FitzRupee, or FhatE rather. I know that's how his name is supposed to be pronounced. I still mess it up a couple times. Lightning Claws coming down for the Chaos Lord, a pretty heavy investment considering the small forces of his army. It's something you always want to consider when you're upgrading your hero. Is this upgrade going to be more worth it than getting another squad or getting another upgrade elsewhere? Especially when you're so far behind on field presence, but I venture to say that with the triple cap, 10 points left is not going to be enough to get the decap on both of these spots, and the game is going to go to FitzRupee after FitzRupee nearly lost it there in the mid-game. He started to bring it back too, and then almost lost it again, but managed to squeeze it out in the end by holding that triple cap and then locking Max down in his Chaos Temple there for a few quick minutes. And it doesn't take long when you have that triple cap. You're used to seeing the victory points tick at like a 1 per second kind of tick rate. And then you figure that's tripled. You're losing 90 points per minute every time you leave that triple cap up. Anyways, let's take a look at this looted tank. I love me some tanks. Little Orky shell firing out there in the center. Whew! That was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll have some more one-on-ones, maybe not on Calderis next time. Although Calderis is, of course, a great map, and that's why we've been seeing all these great matches on here. But if you're a one-on-one player, try to get me some games that aren't on Calderis. I love Calderis, but let's switch up the scenery, shall we? Anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. I know I did. Feel free to send me your replays, drop a line, like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Steam, Twitch, all the social media. I don't even know. There's too many of them these days, man. Anyways, I'll be catching you guys next time.